My name is Amy Henderson, and welcome back to the In the World podcast, where we use a Christian lens to analyze entertainment and media. Previous listeners, yes, I plan to basically ignore the fact that it has been almost a year since I last released an episode. Long story short, my apartment flooded, I moved into a construction zone, and by then I just lost momentum. But no time like the present to start procrastinating again. So today, we are in the world of Moana, the 2016 Polynesian princess movie from Walt Disney Studios, featuring the voice talents of Auli Cravalho and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Although I enjoy the quippy banter, witty humor, and entertainment value of the movie, I especially love the music and the messages. I can almost instantly tell if I'm going to like a song when I first hear it, but it takes like 2 weeks for that enjoyment to build. But Moana's soundtrack as a whole only took about a week for me to memorize while listening to it on breaks at work. Boring job. Anyway, after first seeing the movie with a close friend, we spent about an hour talking about the power of certain scenes, and it's no surprise that many of our interpretations were gospel-related. However, funnily enough, today's topic was actually not inspired by the movie Moana, but actually came from what I would consider the opposite end of the entertainment spectrum, watching the TV show Supernatural. Don't judge me. Towards the end of the TV series, the plot focused on a capricious god controlling the lives of people on Earth for his entertainment and amusement. While watching these events unfold, the characters started to question their free will and man's relationship with God. Just to clarify, no, I was not allowing a fictitious TV show to uproot my faith in God, but thank you for asking. There is power in asking questions if you're willing to actually look for the answers. So the question that I ended up with is, what exactly does free will look like? And how does that free will change when we either follow God's commandments or not? As Christians, we're operating under the assumption that God lovingly intervenes in the lives of his children during appropriate moments. Sometimes we get blessings that we've prayed for, and other times he provides an unprompted assist that we didn't know we needed. On the other hand, sometimes the answer is no, and we don't get what we ask for or even what we feel we need. But this give and take is easy to attribute to an all-knowing, perfect God who doesn't make mistakes. So what prayers he does or does not answer to our liking are always what's in our eternal best interest, which makes sense, but also brings up a slightly controversial question, and I'm gonna push the boundaries today. If God is always doing what's in our best interest, how much free will do we actually have? Enter Moana with all the answers. At its core, Moana is a heroine's journey of a young woman setting out to save the world. She meets Maui, shapeshifter, demigod of the wind and sea, hero to all, who broke the world by stealing the heart of the goddess Te Fiti, releasing the monster Te Kā, and allowing darkness to spread across the ocean and destroy all life it touches. No biggie. Together they traverse the ocean in the hopes of restoring the heart of Te Fiti and saving the world. Along the way, they encounter egos, monsters, coconuts, and volcanoes. I'm being brief here on purpose because we're going to go into a lot more detail later. In this story, for the sake of our Christian analogy, the ocean represents God, and Moana represents each of us. There are times in the story where the ocean helps Moana without her asking. There are times when the ocean doesn't help her after she's asked, and there are times when the ocean seems to be playing no part at all. This echoes the same situations mentioned earlier, where it can seem like God is doing whatever he wants without regard for our free will. But as we will clearly see by the end of this 15-minute, or what started out as a 15-minute episode, this is not the case. There are two very, very, very important Christian doctrines that make an understanding of free will possible. Number one, God knows us completely. The very idea that he knows me better than I know myself positions him to help me in ways that I don't understand. And it also affords him a knowledge of when his help is in accordance with my will and when it's not. Number two, God is also bound by laws. He does not arbitrarily reward his children according to the whims of fashion or latest trends on TikTok. Those who follow the commandments he has laid out are subject to the blessings that come as a result. Doctrine and Covenants 130 verses 20 through 21 reads, "There is a law irrevocably decreed in heaven before the foundations of this world, upon which all blessings are predicated. And when we obtain any blessing from God, it is by obedience to that law upon which it is predicated." So allow me to demonstrate how Moana answers the questions of free will. Opening argument. Why the ocean chose Moana in the first place to be the hero of the story. At the very beginning of the movie, after we learn about how the world broke because Maui stole the heart of Te Fiti, we see Moana as a toddler who has to choose between going after a shiny new shell that is going to disappear with the tide or helping a little baby turtle make it safely to the ocean. No surprise, she chooses to help the baby turtle. No reward was promised. She did it solely out of the goodness of her heart. This is what initially made her a candidate to save the world. She already had an internal desire to do good. So when she's old enough and had the chance for her own solo song, the ocean actually offers her the quest to return the heart of Te Fiti, basing that ask on her already existing desire to do good. This, here, right here, this is important. According to the Book of Moses in the Pearl of Great Price, God says in chapter 7, verse 32, "In the Garden of Eden gave I unto man his agency." When he presents Adam and Eve with the tree of knowledge of good and evil, he commands them not to eat of its fruit, but he also says in chapter 3, verse 17, "Nevertheless, thou mayest choose for thyself, for it is given unto thee." Moana is given a choice, not an order, and she accepts. Boom! Quest initiated. Free will activated. And the first thing Moana encounters in her journey is a storm. An obstacle, and a particularly scary obstacle at that. I mean, the ocean is terrifying without 20-foot waves and lightning, so add that in, and I'm out. Now, I imagine Moana may have felt the same, like, I did not sign up for this crap. I mean, when she wakes up on the island, she yells at the ocean in frustration, tries kicking the water, and finishes with the enchanting line, "Fish pee in you all day, so, ugh." Moana 1, maturity 0. But this is a good spot to pause and reference back to our question. In this situation, was her free will overridden just because she didn't enjoy the experience or see its purpose? Let's answer that with another question. Had her desire to complete her quest changed? No. Then the answer to the previous question is also no. She almost instantly learns that she has coincidentally landed on the island where she can find Maui and immediately doubles down in her initiative to save the world. Maui sings a vain song with a catchy tune, and then literally strands Moana on the island. This is another important moment where free will is shown clearly. Moana jumps off the island into the ocean, and Maui is moving ridiculously fast away from her on the canoe. There is absolutely no way she will catch him by swimming unless she turns into Ariel. That would be cool. I digress. While she's sitting in the water deciding what to do, the ocean does nothing. He's waiting for her to choose. It's only after she decides to keep going to do the impossible that the ocean actually steps in and helps her. After she makes the choice. Free will level up. Many more things happen in the story. Moana and Maui meet the Kakamora coconut creatures who try to steal the heart, and again, Moana does everything in her power to prove her commitment to her quest. They find themselves in Lalotai, the realm of monsters, and again, Moana proves to be a capable, committed young woman who will stop at nothing to reach her end goal. She helps Maui learn to use the power of his fish hook again, and they set off even more driven and inspired to defeat Te Kā and restore the heart of Te Fiti. Friendship unlocked! And then we have what is commonly referred to in literature as the belly of the whale, the false defeat, the lowest point of our story. Maui and Moana face off against the volcano monster Te Kā, and lose. Pretty badly. Maui's magical fish hook is almost destroyed, and Moana's canoe is badly damaged, as are their spirits. Maui abandons Moana again, and Moana gives the heart of Te Fiti back to the ocean and says, "Choose someone else." The scene is so powerful to me, and I'm going to pause here for a minute and just let it all soak in. Moana gives up. She asks to be done. She abandons her quest. Her will here changes, albeit briefly, because she sees the quest as something that the ocean has asked of her that she cannot accomplish. It's no longer what she wants as well, but only what the ocean wants. And he takes the heart back, softly, and in the fashion of a god who respects the free will of his children, he leaves her alone. There have been many times in my life where I have given up. I've stopped trying. I've said it's too much for me, I can't do it anymore. In one particularly dark time in my life, I wrote to a trusted friend that I was tired of fighting and losing. My soul was so exhausted from defeat that I conceded for a time and let my demons win. But I was not alone in those feelings. I can think back to almost every single story from the scriptures where people found themselves in despair or fear or exhaustion. Joseph in Egypt, Esther, Job, Moses, Peter, Paul. and the Savior of the world himself, who asked of his Father, "If thou be willing, remove this cup from me." God does not take away our choice. He sets the way and asks us to follow because he knows that path will bring us the most happiness. Not that it will be the easiest, but it will be the most rewarding. Now, one thing I love about this part of the movie is that Grandma Tala's spirit visits Moana and tells her that if she's ready to go home, that's okay. She doesn't give her some pep talk about how she's so close, she can't give up now. She embraces her granddaughter and tells her that she's enough, regardless of what she chooses. Nevertheless, thou mayest choose for thyself. That isn't some clawback clause from God to manipulate us into doing what he wants or we lose his love. We can make horrible choices all day long, reaping the consequences of our actions, and he will still love us. It won't make what we do okay, but it will never drive away his love. For those interested in a side discussion on redemption, that's what Maui's story teaches. And then, oh folks, it is my all-time favorite moment in the movie. It gives me chills every single time just thinking about it. Moana goes to put her oar back in the water to head home, and she hesitates right before it breaks the surface. She realizes that this isn't what she wants. Her grandmother helps remind her of the quiet voice still inside her. And in this moment, Moana talks about the call she's felt from the ocean, and she realizes something absolutely crucial. And the call isn't out there at all, it's inside me. It's like the tide, always falling and rising. I will carry you here in my heart. You'll remind me that come what may, I know the way. Literally doing everything in my power not to break into song. And then she dives down at the bottom of the ocean and retrieves the heart of Te Fiti more motivated and determined than she's ever been. And notice how the ocean doesn't bring it up to her. He lets her go and get it. This is her decision. This is her agency at work. Final free will level up before the boss fight. In the end, Maui returns to help Moana, and with some additional help from the ocean, Moana realizes that Te Kā is actually Te Fiti. Y'all, I cannot get through this scene without blurry vision. The ending of this story shows that being willing to follow the advice and commandments of our Heavenly Father doesn't mean we've given up our free will. It simply means that we've aligned our wills so much with His that we can't tell them apart. At one point, Moana actually tells the ocean what to do. She tells him to let her come to me. Pretty presumptuous if you ask me. But the ocean parts like the Red Sea, and Moana frees Te Fiti. In Helaman 10:5, God says to his prophet Nephi, I will make thee mighty in word and in deed, in faith and in works, yea, even that all things shall be done unto thee according to thy word, for thou shalt not ask that which is contrary to my will. This is what happens when we align our will with God. They become the same. It's like two people singing a song together. Two voices, one song. The words and the voice are still mine. They just also happen to be the same as someone else's. To summarize, free will does exist, even when we don't get what we want or expect. Having free will is not the same as being happy. When we make bad decisions, there are consequences, and that may make us unhappy, but it doesn't mean we don't have free will. Our Heavenly Father will never force anything on us. Now, as much as we do have free will, and the story of Moana helps illustrate that, we are encouraged to give our will to God, to do what He has asked. This is one of those recurring themes in the scriptures, and I'll be honest, I hate this idea. I absolutely loathe giving up control. But time and time again in the scriptures, we hear stories of people who rose to a task and, though pounded with trials, emerged triumphant and stronger than before. And I think we're often misguided into thinking that if we give our will to God, then He's going to make us into different people. That's false. Well, mostly false. We will always be ourselves. He's just going to make us better, if we allow Him. In his book Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis shares the following analogy. Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps you can understand what He's doing. He's getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof and so on. You knew those jobs needed doing, and so you're not surprised. But presently, He starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abominably and does not seem to make any sense. What on earth is He up to? The explanation is that He is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. Throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but He is building a palace. At the beginning of the movie, Moana really just wanted to sail the ocean. It's pretty much it. Returning the Heart of Te Fiti gave her a chance to do that, but by aligning her desires with what the ocean asked, she saved the world, helped Maui find redemption and self-worth, united her family, honored her ancestors, and still got to sail the world. She was still herself, but also so much more than she could have imagined. This is what can happen if we align our will to God's, but it will never be forced on us. God will force no man into heaven, or woman. All, not really a guy-girl thing. But he will invite us in, all day, every day. And the door is always open, if we choose it. Thank you for tuning into the In the World podcast, and a special thanks to Camille Jensen for her collaboration and contributions. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and share the episode with your family and friends. We've got some exciting things to come, so I hope you'll join us next time as we find new entertainment and media to examine through a gospel lens. One more time for the people in the back. One more time for the people in the back. God says in chapter 7, verse 32, "In the Garden of Eden, I gave unto man," that is not what it says. She already had a internal, and the door is always open. This. Cat, stop it.